Welcome to Isle. You may be familiar with the Roblox game Isle. If not, it's a horror survival game where up to 24 players are dropped onto a mysterious island. From there, you have to explore, scavenge for weapons or supplies, survive whatever the island throws at you, and hopefully find a way to escape. Along the way, you'll run into puzzles, secrets, monsters, and plenty of ways to die. The game's most major enemy, in my opinion, would be the Mercenaries. There are two teams of Mercenaries, Alpha Squad and Bravo Squad. Alpha Squad arrives on day 2, containing Commander, Sniper Spotter, Gunner, and Medic. If you manage to take out the first team, the very next day Bravo Squad will arrive. They're much more prepared than the last group, making them far more deadly. They contain Operator, Ghost, Firebug, Demolitionist, and Specialist. Now you're probably wondering why I'm yapping so much about this game, but there's a good reason for that. I've decided to make a Roblox game about it. The game will be titled Mercenaries vs. Monsters. The Mercenaries part for, well, the mercenaries, and the monsters for the various monsters in the game. And I think this is the perfect time to quickly explain the monsters in Isle. So to put it simply, there were a few monsters in the game, like the Monster, which is a big black man the fandom has named Stan, Agent B6, who is a big black robot, which spawns when a player has a special item called an artifact. Albino Stan, who is just the monster but white, and other beasts like Alice, who is a sea leviathan, and a big white dragon who loves nuts, Peanuts. But because of the recent update which expanded on one of the endings called Orbit, we were introduced to more monsters which are called mutants. Mutants? Parasites? I think they're the same. Anywho, since we now have mutants, parasites, and a zombie species called frog spawn, we can actually make a game with a ton of monsters. So how Mercenaries vs. Monsters will actually work is we can have a lobby full of 8 people. Each player will get their own plot, and from a shop they can buy new mercenaries when they kill enough monsters to earn money. It's a good cycle, and it mixes a solid gameplay loop with a questionable tactic of getting kids to buy stuff. Obviously, we're going to need some microtransactions to make money, but either way it's still going to be somewhat free to play. But yeah, it's a simple loop. Now, I'm pretty sure Isle-inspired games are basically fine, because I've seen tons of Isle games like Isle Sandbox, so I think we're good, but you're going to be able to place down up to 5 mercenaries on your plot that run around and kill the spawned monsters each level. So now we're going to open up an empty base plate in Studio. Also, before we start, I just want to say I'm not a professional game developer, and I make these purely for fun. I know how to script basic things, but the other stuff? Yeah, we're handing that over to Claude AI. So I started by creating the basic fundamentals. I decided we were going to have a handful of character rarities, like those scummy brainrot games, so I went with common, rare, epic, legendary, mythic, and divine. Next, I grabbed a few things from my past games, like animations, models, and other assets, just to speed up the process. So next up, I started creating the shop, sell, and trap systems. Pretty much, the shop is where you buy characters, sell is where you sell each monster for money. For example, if you get a basic frog spawn, you can sell it for 20 money. And finally, traps is basically like the shop, but instead of characters, you're buying traps. Then you set them up right before a level starts. Things like barricades or turrets to help support your mercenaries. Now this is when I noticed an issue. How am I supposed to get the Isle models? Like I can't just make a 1-1 perfect copy of the parasite leech's head. I've touched Blender like twice in my life. But while writing this script, I realized something. Over the years, I've always wanted to make Isle games. So I would usually go look in the toolbox for models, and guess what I would always find? The Isle models. So while making this, I decided to just put all the monster and mercenary models into server storage. Also, quick note, these models belong to Badorkby, and some to Marui, so credit where credit is due. Now you might think that solves everything, but nope, another issue popped up. I already had all the mercenaries, so there wasn't much left to actually make on that side. So I decided I'll add the main 10 from the original game, 3-4 from Marui's Intervention series, Peak series by the way, and a bunch of originals I'll create myself. In day 2, I'm going to start actually turning this into something playable, getting the core systems working properly, like making sure mercenaries actually fight, monsters actually spawn correctly, and the shop starts feeling like a real system instead of just buttons on a screen. So yeah, that's going to be the plan. See you on day 2.